morning to you all. I'm Dr. Neha Khodke, bringing to you the next session of Zomeo Classroom. Today, we will be looking at a group of remedies that is prescribed in a very vast way by many homeopaths. And unfortunately, it happens that just one or two remedies of this particular group are, you can say, more popular when being prescribed. But today, we will have a look at different remedies from the same group and see how we can differentiate and use these remedies in our practice. I am talking about a very popular animal group, which is Ophidia or snakes. Let's start. I hope that you have kept your software screens ready or your notebooks and pens ready so that you can follow the same steps that I do. Do not worry, you can follow the same steps in the Windows version of hompathsomeo as well. All the features that I will be showing today in the new version are present in the Windows version of hompathsomeo. Let's start. Amongst the animal kingdom, Ophidia Group or snakes are one of the largest contributing groups of the homeopathic materia medica. The Ophidia Group lies under the class of reptiles or cold-blooded animals, which belong to phylum Chordata under Metazoa. Now, let us look at the different poisonous snakes that we have in our materia medica. They are broadly classified into vipers, cobras, kraits, and sea snakes. Among the vipers are the pit vipers that belong to the Crotalidae family. Naja is a cobra, Bungaris is a krait, and Hydrophis is a sea snake. Before we have a look at the remedies or how do the snakes represent homeopathically, we need to have a look at how they affect human beings. And this can be best done through their poison or through their venom, because this helps us to understand not only a lot of physical characteristics of the snake, but even the mental characteristics that are seen in human provings. Now, snake venoms are basically made up of proteins and they contain enzymes. And the work of any enzyme is to break down a substance, break down a material, or break down a cell. So the enzymes here break the bonds between large molecules and therefore cause destruction of cells, leading to destruction of red blood cells, inhibit muscle control, and cause lapses in neural impulses as well. Now, the categorization of venoms. We can categorize venoms broadly into three types: cytotoxins, neurotoxins, and hemotoxins or hematotoxins. Cytotoxins are substances that destroy actual body cells, and this leads to necrosis. So they cause cell death, and that is why cytotoxins cause a lot of damage at the site of the snake bite. Cytotoxins can further be broadly classified into cardiotoxins, that is, those venoms that basically destroy the cells of the heart, like the Naja or the cobra snake. Myotoxins, the ones that involve or destroy the cells of the muscles. This is seen in the Bungaris or the krait snakes. And nephrotoxins, those venoms that serve to destroy the cells of the kidneys predominantly, and this is seen in the vipers. Understand that no venom is purely cardiotoxic or purely myotoxic or even purely cytotoxic. Venoms are made up of different enzymes and proteins, so they have a mixed effect. So a cytotoxic venom can also be a neurotoxic one or a hemotoxic one. Now when we come to venoms that have a predominantly neurotoxic effect, there are two types of neurotoxins in venoms. The first type are the toxins that cause sustained muscular contraction, which is tetany. Now, what is the physiological action behind it? We have two nerve endings. Between nerve endings, there is a short space. Okay, and in this short space, there is acetylcholine. Now, acetylcholine is released and it is taken up by the receptors of the receiving nerve ending. This passes the impulse from one nerve ending to the other, and that causes the contraction of the muscle. Now the relaxation is caused because the acetylcholinesterase enzyme is present in the synapse to break acetylcholine and to break the connection between the two nerve endings. And this is how the muscle cells relax. So this is the physiology behind a muscle contraction. Now that is why it is very important to have both acetylcholine and acetylcholinesterase as well as the acetylcholine or ACH receptors on the receiving nerve ending. In tetany, what happens is that the venom destroys acetylcholinesterase, and because of that, acetylcholine keeps getting released, the impulse keeps getting passed, and that is why there is a sustained muscular contraction that happens, and that causes tetany. Now, this tetany is seen in the venoms of Crotalus and Dendroaspis. Dendroaspis is nothing but the black mamba snake. The second type of neurotoxin is the one that causes paralysis. Now, why is paralysis caused? Is because the acetylcholine receptors that were there on the receiving nerve ending are destroyed or they are taken up by the venom. And that is why the acetylcholine cannot come in contact with the receptors and cannot pass on the impulse. And that is why the muscle slowly becomes flaccid, lax, and finally paralyzed. And this type of paralytic effect is what is seen in the bite of the cobra, bungaris, and some types of crotalus snakes. So this is how we understand the neurotoxic effect of snake venoms. And so you can remember this when we are correlating with the actual clinical symptoms that we see in the remedies. And the last type of toxins are the hemotoxins, the one that actually affect the blood. They cause degeneration in the blood. The hemotoxic venoms affect the blood, cause destruction and degeneration of the blood and the red blood cells, and that is why there is a lot of purplish discoloration. If you see a lot of oozing, there is gangrene. Now this type of pathology is seen in the bites of cobra, vipers, and crotalus horridus. So like I mentioned before, if you see, no venom is purely cytotoxic or purely neurotoxic or purely hemotoxic. There is always a mix that is happening. So many venomous snake species have a combination of cytotoxins, and some may also produce neurotoxins or hemotoxins. Now have a look at the general symptoms that are seen in a snake bite. These are general symptoms. Specific snake bites will also have other specific effects. But if you see, generally there is dizziness, fainting, increased thirst, headaches, breathing difficulty, a fever, low blood pressure, rapid pulse, severe shock. All of this is a combination of the nervous as well as hemotoxic effects of the venom. In the muscular region, you will see that there are convulsions or weakness, loss of coordination. At the site of the injury, there will be bleeding, discoloration, burning sensation, and a swelling. So these are the general symptoms of snake bite. If you look at the provings, you will see all of these symptoms coming up. Of course, they will have their own characteristics in the provings. So lachesis will have a different type of constriction. Crotalis will have a different type of constriction. That helps us to differentiate. But these are the general symptoms of the snake bite. Having a look at the effects finally of the snake bite. Cobra and crate bites are the most lethal ones. The patient experiences immediate drowsiness, blurring vision, dysphagia or difficulty in swallowing because of respiratory spasm, and diplopia. There is paralysis of palate, tongue, respiratory muscles, and limbs. Death occurs within 4 to 8 hours if left untreated. Sea snake bites cause immediate neck stiffness. So, first the focus is more local. Stiffness of back and proximal parts of the limbs, and after that they go into respiratory paralysis. Death is due to paralysis and respiratory failure. Following viperine bites, there will be extensive bruising, hemorrhage at the site of the bite, hematemesis or vomiting of blood, melena and bleeding gums. So this person will eventually die of shock because of bleeding. Death occurs due to hemorrhages, shock, renal failure or cardiac failure. Okay. Now similarly, let us have a look. Now remember all of these effects that we saw of a snake venom. These are in very high material doses. But if we compare the same to the group symptoms that we have in Ophidia, of course, provings happen in highly attenuated doses. So the symptoms will be slightly different, but they will run parallel to finally the basic effects of the snake venom. Let us have a look at the group symptoms of Ophidia in hompathsomeo. So we have a very interesting feature called group symptoms in the software, where you can read the characteristic symptoms of the major groups of remedies that are there in homeopathic prescribing. To access group symptoms, on the topmost taskbar or menu bar, go to Utility, and under Utility, go to the last feature, which is Group Symptoms. Click on it, and here you have the information of 20 groups of remedies in homeopathy. We are looking for Ophidia. For that, you can either scroll down in the list and click on Ophidia, or you can type Ophidia in the search bar present above. So let me just click on Ophidia. Here on the right hand side of the screen, you can see all the symptoms and the characteristics of the Ophidia group of remedies. So you can see the remedies that are there under the Ophidia group. We can also see the characteristics. Now let me just increase the font size. To increase the font size, we refer to the toolbar here and take the cursor towards the right. When you take the cursor towards the right, the font size increases and it becomes easier for us to read. So if you look at the general characteristics of the Ophidia group, look at the sphere of action: blood, circulation, heart, nerves, ovary, throat, mind. Discharges are profuse, thick or thin, offensive and acrid. Why would they be offensive and acrid? Because they are degenerated or they are destroyed. Okay, so basically what you are seeing is a reflection of a snake bite or a venom. Hemorrhages from all orifices that are dark red or blackish coagulated, bloody sweat, saliva, and semen. There is a lot of oversensitiveness. Now, when we go ahead and see the differentiating characteristics of the different snake remedies, this oversensitivity comes into the picture a lot. Okay, oversensitiveness mentally and physically to all external impressions, and this is a common symptom that is seen across most snakes. Cannot wear tight clothes or tight bandages, cyanotic and gangrenous affections where there is necrosis of tissues and bones. Okay. Then in modalities, if you see aggravated at night, aggravated sleep. Okay. And in the mind, we see a host of symptoms like jealousy, suspicion, quarrelsome, irritability, loquacity, which lachesis is famous for, religious affections. Okay, all of these are seen. Now, these are symptoms that have been jotted down and seen commonly across all snakes. But what really brings them to that level, or what is the evolution or the behind the scenes of all these symptoms, is what we will see now. Now, here is something interesting. Here is how we can help you to remember the symptoms in the Ophidia group through the doctrine of signature. Have a look carefully. You can note these down. Okay, so now on the left hand side, we have the different characteristics that are seen and observed in snakes by different zoologists and biologists. And on the right hand side, we have correlated with the symptoms that are commonly seen in the Ophidia group of remedies. So the first one is that a snake is very sensitive to heat and tends to hide in cooler places, which is why we see on the right hand side that a snake is usually worse from warmth, hot drinks in summer, and in the sun. A snake is poisonous and ferocious when it is hungry. So on the right hand side, we can interpret this as a patient who is worse from fasting or hunger and better by eating. So there is a very marked hunger aggravation in the Ophidia group of remedies. A snake coils from left to right, and that is why in most of the snakes in the Ophidia group of remedies, you see that the symptoms usually start in the left and then move towards the right. The exception to this rule are crotalis and elaps, both of which are right-sided remedies. Snakes are basically nocturnal creatures. Again, because in the daytime there is the sun and they get aggravated by heat. They do not like heat. Okay, so they are nocturnal creatures. They come out to eat in the night. So symptoms are usually better in an Ophidia person towards the evenings, and the patient feels more active in the evenings. Snakes are revengeful creatures, especially if you hurt their young ones. And that is why even in an Ophidia group remedy, you will see a lot of vindictiveness, maliciousness, and revenge. So this is a thread that runs through all the snake remedies that we have. And I'm basically focusing more on venomous snakes. Okay, now if you look at the snake bite, blood is let out immediately after the snake bite to minimize the damage. That is why in an Ophidia group, a patient is always better by discharges or bleeding in general. So a lachesis female will always feel better when her menses begin in full flow. Whenever the menses are suppressed, a snake female is highly aggravated. Snakes are very sensitive to touch and vibration. And the same is seen in a snake remedy. The patient is usually worse on touch and even the slightest noise. So, like we recall, we saw the word oversensitiveness in the group remedy, in the group symptoms of Ophidia. Snake stools are black and very offensive. And even in a snake remedy, you will see that the patient usually says that the discharges are offensive and dark. Snakes swallow large creatures very easily, and a snake remedy patient also has no pain while swallowing solids during throat complaints. So, this was the doctrine of signature. This is how you can remember about the aggravation from suppression of discharges, better by discharges, the bleeding, the nature of bleeding. Yes, another doctrine of signature also that you can apply is that because snakes are more of nocturnal creatures, a snake remedy is usually worse when going into sleep. That is why the symptom is sleeps into his complaints. So he feels that he stops breathing when he falls asleep, and that is why he immediately wakes up. And this is how you can correlate the aggravation from sleep as well. Now, let's have a look at the common symptoms that we see in the Ophidia group. The first is a paralysis. This is a common feature of Ophidia in both right as well as left-sided remedy. Okay, a left-sided paralysis will be seen more in lachesis, naja, vipera, and crates or bungaris, whereas a right-sided paralysis is seen more in crotalis, elaps, and bothrops. Now, if you want to, really understand what are the common symptoms that are seen across the Ophidia group, we have a really wonderful feature in Zomeo called Materia Medica extract, where you can actually see the common rubrics or the rubrics in which there are certain remedies present together. So let us have a look at the Materia Medica extract. What we are going to do here is take an extract of certain complaints in the repertory for certain snake remedies, and we will see which are the complaints that come commonly across all the snake remedies that we have taken. Okay, so to access Materia Medica extract, you go to the topmost taskbar and you click on remedy, and under remedy you will click on the second option called remedy extract. Now on the left hand side of the screen you see certain parameters that you need to put in so that the result comes on the right hand side of the screen. Okay, now we are talking about paralysis. All right, so first let us add the remedies. Okay, for the sake of being able to see on the same screen, we will take any 4 snake remedies and then we will see what the extract shows us. So now in the remedy, let me put in lachesis. So I just type LACH and the list of remedies drills down to those words that contain that particular keyword that I have typed. I will click on lachesis. Then let me type in naja. Okay, I select naja. Then I type in crotalis and let me take up crotalis horridus. And now let me take the 4th remedy as perhaps elaps. Alright, so I have taken 4 snake remedies. Done. So if you see on the left hand side, 4 remedies are represented. Now let me select the chapter or the repertory that I want to view these remedies in. Okay, since we are talking about paralysis, right, let me take up the chapter on extremities from complete repertory. So I type in extremities, I select done, and either I can get the extract for all the rubrics in the extremities chapter, or if I'm looking for a certain keyword, I can type in that keyword as well over here in symptom keyword. Right now, let me just see the general rubrics that I get. Okay, so now in complete extremities, and I want to see the common rubrics across all the 4 remedies. Okay, so I will select the option common rubrics, and now I click on extract, and here on the right hand side I get an extract of all the rubrics that have all of these 4 remedies in common. So you can scroll down the list and you can see all the rubrics that are there. Okay, so there are a lot of rubrics like pain, numbness, and a lot to do with location, all right, that you see. So if you see in the extremities, joints are predominantly involved in all 4 remedies: upper arms, lower limbs. There is coldness. Okay, now all of these common symptoms we will be seeing ahead as well. I recall seeing numbness. Yes, so there is numbness over here. So if I click on numbness, insensibility, I can see all the 4 snakes that I have taken to be there. And against numbness, I can see even the gradations in which they are there. So lachesis, naja and crotalis are there in gradation 4, whereas elapse is there in gradation 3. Okay. Suppose I would like to see another chapter. Okay, I would like to see the common rubrics in another chapter. Let me take up another chapter. Let me take up, say, generalities from the complete repertory. So again, I just type in generalities, I select it, done, and now I am again looking for the common rubrics, okay, among all the 4 remedies that I have taken. So I will click on extract, and now you can see in generalities how many of those rubrics are there that have all of them together. Okay, so here as well. Okay, let's do something else. In the generalities chapter itself, let me see if there is a keyword called paralysis. So I type in paralysis. All right, extract. Now, can you see in the generalities chapter of the complete repertory, I have the keyword or the rubric for paralysis. I have 4 rubrics, and in all rubrics, all the 4 remedies that I had considered for extract are present, and they are all there in higher gradations. So lachesis and naja are there in gradation 4, crotalis and elapse are there in gradation 3. So this is how it becomes so simple. So this is how through remedy extract we can get the common symptoms that run across the remedies that belong to the same group. Okay, going back to our presentation, the next common symptom is constriction. So there's a lot of constriction. The constriction is mainly at the level of the throat, but in case of naja, there is a constriction of blood vessels also. Let us read. Okay, so in lachesis, constriction of throat, larynx, and abdomen, along with intolerance to least touch or pressure, especially on the neck. In Sencris, we have a constriction that is very similar to lachesis, and the patient wants to wear loose clothing. In elapse, there is constriction of throat and pharynx, where the food is suddenly arrested and falls heavily into the stomach. In case of lachesis, the food will never get arrested. In fact, he will never feel any pain when he is swallowing solids. but in elapse there will be a sensation of heaviness. Crotalus horridus has spasms in the throat where the patient cannot swallow solids, and there is an intolerance to clothing around the stomach, something that is similarly seen in nitric acid. Vipera has a lot of anguish in the region of the heart with violent chest pain. The patient tears his clothes open because of the chest pain. Naja has a choking sensation in the throat with a constriction in the evening. Okay, the next we come across is hemorrhages. So, the Ophidia group is famous for having a lot of hemorrhagic remedies. In hemorrhages, the blood is dark, non-coagulable, decomposed, blackish blood oozing from all orifices of the body. So in lachesis, you will have something similar, oozing of dark blood. Hemorrhages from bowels are like charred straw with particles that are black in color. In crotalus, you will have something similar, dark, non-coagulable blood with bloody sweat. In elapse, there will be a black epistaxis or bleeding from the nose. The menstrual bleeding will also be dark. Low destructive fevers and septic states are also seen in Ophidia group of remedies. Now we are all seeing the end results, if you understand. Okay, we still have to study the evolution of the remedies. In the low destructive fevers, so there will be cellulitis, which is more of a necrotizing nature, gangrene, ulcerations that are malignant with very bad healing of wounds, diphtheria, typhoid. Okay. In lachesis, there will be more of purplish color boils, carbuncles, ulcers with a bluish black discoloration. In crotalus, it is more of a jaundiced nature, so more involvement of the liver. So you will see yellow fever, plague, and in crotalus, you will also have symptoms of cholera. There is a lot of nerve affection that is seen. So all the remedies of Ophidia group cause irritation of the pneumogastric nerve, and this causes the constricted feeling across all levels. So across all orifices there is going to be constriction. And heart affection. So palpitations, dyspnea, valvular lesions, all of this are seen in the Ophidia group of remedies. So you will see this more in Naja, which has more of cardiac manifestations, more involving the valves of the heart. Okay. In lachesis, it is more of a rheumatic heart disease. Whereas in crotalus, where there is feeble action of heart, there is the involvement of liver as well. So clinically, if you correlate, it is seen more in right heart failure. And vipera is cardiac dropsy. Again, right-sided, so right heart failure. We come now to liver affections. So hepatomegaly, jaundice, especially with relation to heart complaints, should point you in the direction of the Ophidia group of remedies. It does not mean that you need to get prejudiced to them, but this is a major group that you must never forget when you talk about liver affections with cardiac disturbance. So, crotalus, now in crotalus, there is a lot of destruction of the red blood cells. So, this is more to do with the hemolytic type of jaundice, where there is destruction of blood. In vipera, the liver is enlarged, there is jaundice, fever, and there are extensive joint pains. In lachesis, again, you see a lot of sensitiveness to touch. So the liver region is very sensitive and they cannot tolerate tight clothing or elastic bands across the waist. Another very important symptom that you see across all Ophidia group of remedies is the periodicity of the complaints. Okay, so in all you will see that there is an annual return of complaints, whatever complaints they may be. Okay, in lachesis and toxicophis it is mostly fever. Okay, whereas in vipera it is more of pain, it is more of blood vessel related complaints like varicosities that tend to return annually. Okay, now again this interestingly you can see in the materia medica extract. So if we want to see how the periodicity is reflected in snakes, okay, let us have a look in the software how we can show this. So again in materia medica extract, in the chapters tab, let us type in generalities because periodicity will be seen in generalities. Okay, done. And in the symptom keyword, let's put periodical. Let's see what happens. And you can see that in the generalities chapter, there are two rubrics for periodicity and both contain all the 4 snake remedies that we had taken for extract. Let's open the first one. So to open that rubric, just click on it and you can see that there are 499 remedies, out of which we have lachesis, we have naja. So lachesis is in 4 marks, naja is 1 mark, crotalis is 3 marks, and elapse is 3 marks as well, right? So this is how you can understand the group symptoms using the repertory. Interestingly, we also have the snake remedy Sencris in periodicity, but that's there for 1 mark, but it is still there. So that's another snake remedy which we did not consider in the extract, but which we incidentally found in the generalities chapter. Then we have the famous sleep aggravation, again something that is seen across all the snake remedies, right? So we have lachesis. As soon as the patient falls asleep, breathing stops. In crotalis, we have sleeps into his symptoms. And in naja, there are suffocative spells after he falls asleep. Now, these are the general mind symptoms of Ophidia. So, there will be jealousy, suspicion, quarrelsomeness, loquacity, religious affections, so a religious bent of mind, clairvoyance, attractiveness, competitiveness, and extremely communicative. Even if you look at, say, clairvoyance, just remember that in doctrine of signature, there are a lot of snakes who have certain nerve endings between their eyes which help them to sense danger, which help them to sense what is about to happen. Okay, when it comes to an animal, a dangerous animal being there or somebody who can attack them. Okay, so they come to know before that there is something bad now that is going to happen, or somebody bad who is there who wants to kill me, and this you can correlate as the doctrine of signature for clairvoyance, because this is a very major symptom that is seen across many snakes, especially lachesis and sencris. But now let us look at each. Okay, we look at a few major snake remedies, and I will help you to differentiate one snake constitution from the other. So let's start with the most popular remedy in our materia medica, which is the representational remedy, I would say, for snakes, which is lachesis. Okay, now every remedy has a theme, and even in snake remedies there is a theme for each remedy which finally goes to the level of the mind symptoms like jealousy, suspicion. All of these are words. Why have they happened is because of the theme that is present in each remedy. So now the first remedy we see is lachesis. Now in lachesis, the theme is competition. A lachesis woman or a lachesis man is extremely competitive, and they feel that everybody is their competition. Okay, there is a one-upmanship that occurs. It's like a rat race where lachesis feels that I have to come first because that is my identity. And if this does not happen, or if they see someone is better at any level, okay, whether it is in terms of looks, whether it is in terms of ambition, accomplishments, or talent, there is an extreme form of jealousy that a lachesis can take up. Okay, so let us have a look at what a few authors talk about lachesis when it comes to this theme that we are talking about, and this will help you to understand what a lachesis is. So let's have a look at some of the Materia Medica references and go through the books, what the authors have written about lachesis. They will help us to get a very fuller picture of the remedy. So to read about the Materia Medica of lachesis in particular, go to the module of remedy in the top taskbar and click on remedy list. You can also type Command E from your keyboard. So once I select this, on the left hand side, I see all the remedies for which Materia Medica or for which information is available in the software. I am particularly looking at lachesis. In the search bar, type lachesis. So LACH. Okay. So now I can see the information of lachesis in front of me. On the right hand side, you can see the basic details of lachesis. So its common name, Surukuku or Bushmaster, the predominant side affected, the miasmatic affectation, the thermal state. Alright. What I am particularly looking for here, however, is the Materia Medica. So if I want to read about the Materia Medica of lachesis, click on the arrow that is present next to the word properties and select reference books. Now under reference books, click on the arrow next to books, and now I have here a complete list of all the books that list the Materia Medica of lachesis. Let me just open any one book. Let me go in for Lectures on Homeopathic Materia Medica by J.T. Kent. Alright, and here you can read the Materia Medica of lachesis. Right, now here if you see, Kent speaks very extensively about lachesis. Okay, now let us see what another author writes about lachesis. Let us go in for Homeopathic Drug Pictures by M.L. Tyler. Again, in the book section, if you saw what I did, I just scrolled in the list and I selected the book. Okay. Now, Margaret Tyler gives very interesting views about the remedies that have been proved. And that is why I like referring to her again and again. So now if you see, she also quotes Kent. Kent says, self-consciousness, self-conceit, envy, hatred, and cruelty, an improper love of self. So she has also quoted, but if you read ahead, jealousy, suspicion, as when a girl never sees a whispered conversation going on without thinking they are talking about her to her detriment. So, can you understand? There is so much of self love that if she feels that two people are talking across the room with each other, they must be talking about me. and they must be speaking something bad about me because they are jealous of me. But why does she think that? Because she herself is a very jealous and a suspicious person. All right. So, take for example a person who is a go getter, who's extremely ambitious, who's really good at what they do. But suddenly one day, somebody else starts coming ahead. There is a competition, and that starts affecting her, and that shows her picture. She feels very jealous. She wants to bring that person down. So what will a lachesis do? Suppose there is somebody else who people say, is more good looking than her. She's prettier. Okay. What will she do? She will make efforts. She will put in extra efforts to look prettier. That is her way of, because she is an extremely competitive person. And that is exactly what lachesis is. She cannot stand it when someone else goes ahead. The theme of lachesis, friends, is competition, jealousy, and show. Okay, so now we've understood the picture of lachesis. Let's move on to another remedy. Okay, before that, lachesis is thermally hot and a left-sided snake. So hot and left-sided is what you need to remember for lachesis. On the other hand, if there is a snake that is chilly and right-sided, you think of the remedy elapse. Okay, elapse is an exception to the rule that they are aggravated by warmth. Elapse likes warmth. Elapse is aggravated by cold and especially by cold draft of air. Now, if you look at the theme of elapse, elapse is very similar to palladium. For elapse, it is a question of her image, of her self-respect. Nothing should hurt my image. I have an image to maintain. I have reached a certain position, say in my family or in my job or in any kind of competitive event, and now I have to maintain this position. And that is why there is a constant fear in elapse that her image will be tarnished, that her image will be destroyed. And that is the theme of elapse. It is a matter of image. Okay. With palladium, if you compare with palladium, it is more of an image that is seeking approval and attention. For elapse, it is an image that uh, reveres or that wants that respect, and she craves for respect. It is more of a respect that an elapse wants. So anything that threatens her respect, her dignity, and her image is a threat to her, and that will put her on her guard. That will make her extremely anxious, and that is why she is a very suspicious remedy, because she feels that people are out to destroy her image, and that reflects in her fears, that reflects in her dreams. So I'll show you a very interesting rubric: fear of heights. Okay, we have a lot of people who have this fear, right? uh, and that is why it is a rubric that is very commonly applied in repertorial analysis. But did you know that elapse is also a remedy for fear of heights? Let us have a look. Okay, so now in the repertory in hompathsomeo, if we want to look for fears, we go in for the mind chapter. Okay, let us look for fear of heights in the complete repertory. Now, I know that this symptom is there in the mind chapter. So, let me show you the classic way we can go about this. For this, just type command O. Okay, your repertory screen opens where the first chapter that is opened is the mind chapter of the complete repertory. Now in this, I just have to start typing. So I type fear space high places. For this, I need to know the exact rubric. Okay, so it is fear of high places. Now I select that and I have 56 remedies. Have a look here. Elapse is present in this rubric as a 2-mark remedy. So there is a fear of heights. How do you interpret this? She has reached a certain image. She has reached a certain position. She is looking down and she does not like what she is seeing there. She does not want to go to that position again. And that is why there is a fear of heights. And that is why her dreams also show her fears. There are constant dreams of falling. So again, if we want to see dreams falling, in the mind chapter of complete repertory, just type in dreams space falling. So we have a rubric called dreams falling. There are 151 remedies and elapse is present as a 1-mark remedy. We usually tend to skip dreams, okay, because in most people dreams are unremembered. But when you have a person, a patient who has walked in, you ask them about their dreams and they tell you off and on across many years, I get dreams that I'm falling somewhere, anywhere. I'm falling on the road, especially I'm falling from the edge of a cliff. These dreams reflect the subconscious thoughts that are going on in the mind of a person. Okay, now these dreams of falling that an elapse gets are because of the reason of the image. I I need to look good to people, and when I say I need to look good, it is not looks or appearance, it is my respect. People should look at me and say, oh, she's somebody who deserves respect. And this is seen in elapse. Elapse is a very dignified snake. There is jealousy, there is suspicion, but it is shown very nicely. Okay, if an elapse is very egoistic, just like a lachesis, but the elapse will react in a different way. If the elapse wants to put you down, she will do it very nicely. You will not even understand when she puts you down. She is so good at it. Okay, she'll do it very nicely, but she will do it. All right. So this is elapse, where there is a fear of losing her position. Then we come to Naja. Naja is a very different type of snake. You can think of Naja as similar to Aurum metallicum. Very dignified, very quiet, very reserved, very duty conscious snake. And that is why there is a lot of conflict. There is a lot of guilt. Naja is a left-sided snake, but it is chilly. Okay. Naja is a type of snake. Now, if you look at lachesis, if you if a lachesis feels there is a threat, she will react immediately. In Naja, she will feel a threat coming on. She will threaten to strike, but she will not unless and until she is provoked. So this is similar to the king cobra. Okay, if you walk in front of a king cobra, the king cobra will immediately just stand up and give you a warning. Don't come closer or I will bite. Okay, the cobra will never offensively strike you unless and until it is provoked to strike. And the same characteristics are seen in Naja. They threaten to strike, but they never strike. Okay, Naja is similar to a woman whose husband is attracted to another woman and she doesn't know what to do because she is very duty conscious. So there is a conflict. Should I leave him or not? Should I confront him or not? I need to do something. It is duty versus desire. This is the conflict of emotions that you see in Naja. And that is why Naja is a very melancholic and brooding snake. Okay, now let us have a look in the repertory that about brooding and see where Naja figures. So this time, let me show you the repertory in another way. Let's do a general search across all repertories for brooding. For a general search across all repertories, just type in Command S from the keyboard and type in brooding. Okay, there are 96 references for brooding. Now, instead of complete, let us look at another reference. Let us look at the reference of Kent. There are 26 remedies in Kent for brooding, and Naja falls under 2 marks. Now, interestingly, if you see Aurum metallicum, which we felt was an extremely brooding remedy, a big brooder, is there only for 1 mark. And Natrum does not figure out in this list at all. Okay. Now, what is the difference? Like in the beginning, when I started talking about Naja, I spoke that Naja and Aurum metallicum are very similar, but their reactions are very different. Naja is also very duty conscious. Aurum metallicum is also very duty conscious. Naja has a lot of guilt because of conflict. So does Aurum metallicum. But what is the difference between the two? The difference in Naja is that Naja is very loquacious. She will talk a lot, but an Aurum metallicum will not speak a single word. She will be silent. She will suffer silently. In Aurum metallicum, the focus is more on overburdening a young person with a lot of responsibility. In Naja, it is more of a threat, and because of that threat, a conflict arises. So it is a conflict between right and wrong that arises in Naja. And this is what causes her to strike. She will strike, but only when provoked. Whereas an Aurum metallicum will usually not strike. She will suffer silently. Okay, because she is a noble metal. So can you see how interesting it is when we see different type of remedies coming on in those rubrics that we take generally in our repertorial analysis, but we never consider these remedies at all. For brooding, we usually think of Ignatia, Staphysagraea, Natrum Aurum metallicum. We never think of a remedy like Naja. Okay, so this is what Naja is. For Naja, the theme is duty. Let us have a look at the next snake, which is Cenchrus contortrix. Now, Cenchrus is a remedy, unfortunately, for which a lot of materia medica is not available. But what I found in Cenchrus is that there is a lot of persecution, a feeling of persecution, not necessarily a persecution. Okay, this persecution feeling arises from the constant idea in a Cenchrus mind that people are out to make me impure in some way or the other. Okay, she is somebody who is protecting her own morality. Like, for example, if I tell you a man who is, working at his job very diligently, extremely duty conscious, very focused on his work, but a project is not getting done, and somebody else just comes and tells him that, bribe that person and you can get your work done. Bribery. Or he is somebody who is not passing a project because he feels that there are a lot of discrepancies, but someone comes to bribe him and he does not like it. Okay, this is the Cenchrus conflict. There is a feeling that somebody is out to destroy my morality, and that is why a Cenchrus feels extremely persecuted. And Cenchrus is a snake that reacts very quickly. Okay, so there is a quick reaction. He will just say, no, get lost. this is a Sencris. I will never do this, because this is the main point of disturbance, or the main point of hurt in a Sencris, where there is somebody who is out to get my morality, out to destroy it, out to taint it. And that is why, interestingly, in a Sencris woman, you there are, constant dreams of rape. So rape is what, something that destroys her morality or her chastity. Okay, and that is why she gets these dreams, horrible dreams, vivid horrible dreams. Okay, so let us see. Okay, very interestingly, let us see where Sencris figures in these dreams. Okay, so let us do a command S again. Let's type in dreams, rape. Okay, 46 remedies in the mind chapter of complete repertory. Sencris is there for 3 marks. So can you understand why such a dream comes up? Horrible dreams. She always says that I get very bad, terrible dreams. Okay, and if she says dreams of rape, so there are just 46 remedies, and even among those 46 remedies, Sencris stands out as a grade 3 remedy, because the thought behind that dream is that there is somebody who is out to destroy my morality or my purity, whatever. This is what goes on in their mind, and that is why they get such dreams. Apart from that, Sencris also has the other common symptoms that are seen across Ophidia, of loquaciousness, of jealousy, of suspicion, of being a vindictive or a revengeful snake. She is a very quick reacting snake. Okay. We move on to Crotalus cascavella. Now, Crotalus cascavella as a constitution is a clairvoyant remedy, because there is a very heightened level of sensitivity in Crotalus cascavella. Okay, so there is hypochondriasis, so a lot of anxiety about their own health, about, oh my god, no, I'm, you know, too much of anxiety that is there in Crotalus cascavella. But Crotalus cascavella is, unlike the other snakes, very patient, extremely patient snake. Okay, she is good with everyone. Why? Because she does not like being alone. There is a fear of being alone in Crotalus cascavella, which is why she is very good with everyone. She is very patient with everyone. Even if she feels that they behave badly with her, she does not react immediately, because she wants to be with people. Otherwise, she has this fear that I will get isolated. Okay, and there is a lot of anxiety about herself, about her own health in Crotalus cascavella. We come to Crotalus horridus. Now, cascavella is a remedy that wants a lot of people. Crotalus is a remedy who is away from people, so there is a very cool detachment. Okay, she is all right with being away from people, no problem. Okay, you want to stay away, no problem, she's all right. Okay, she's a very sympathetic snake, and very unusual for an Ophidia remedy, but she is very timid. Okay, she is okay with everything unless she is provoked. And the very interesting thing in Crotalus horridus, now if you see, a lachesis will react immediately and impulsively, wants quick action. A naja will react only when provoked to the extreme. A Crotalus horridus will react when she feels the time is right. That is when she will react. Okay, that is the difference between the different snake remedies. And like I said, till then, she is a very timid snake. Okay, now let us look in the rubrics and see whether Crotalus horridus is there in timidity. So again, we will do a command S, and I will type in timidity. All right. 248 remedies in the mind chapter of complete repertory. Let me click on it. Scrolling down, Crotalus horridus is there as a 3-mark remedy. If you see, the only other snake remedy that is there is Cenchrus. Okay, and when we looked at Cenchrus, it is a question of morality or chastity. So there is a certain level of timidity in her as well. But when she is provoked, when her chastity or her morality is provoked, she reacts immediately or impulsively. On the other hand, Crotalus horridus will take their time to react. They will also have envy, they will also have mistrustfulness, there will also be a desire for revenge, and in the end, an actual revenge. But she will take her time. And that is the difference with Crotalus horridus. And now the last, but a snake that is not very well represented again in the Materia Medica, something that we do not think of, is Dendroaspis. Dendroaspis is nothing but the black mamba snake. Now, if you know the characteristics of the black mamba, the Dendroaspis person is exactly like that. Black mamba is one of the most aggressive snakes in the world. They are very, very offensive in their attack. And this is what you see even in the Dendroaspis person. Extremely aggressive, extremely offensive, and instant reaction is what you see in Dendroaspis. So amongst all the snakes, you will see that the Dendroaspis is the quickest reacting snake, most impulsive and most aggressive snake among all the Ophidia remedies that you see. There is an instant desire for revenge and an instant gratification of that revenge. A black mamba snake usually operates alone, and that is why a Dendroaspis person is usually alone and okay with being alone, because he is that kind of a person. He is extremely aggressive. He takes offense at the slightest things that are said to him, and he gives a very quick and abusive or a rude reaction to it, violent reaction to it. Nobody will want to be with such a person, and even he is fine with it. Okay, so this is how we can differentiate the different snakes. Let us see how Dendroaspis is represented in our repertory. For that, we will have to go back to Materia Medica extract. So, let us do a quick recap, a revision of how you can go into a Materia Medica extract. For that, click on Remedy and click on Remedy Extract. And in this, let us have a look at the mental symptoms of Dendroaspis for you to understand the evolution of Dendroaspis better. So, in the remedy, okay, I will be adding Dendro P, done, and in the chapters, I will be adding the mind chapter of the complete repertory, done. Let me have a look at all the rubrics that are there in the mind chapter of complete repertory for Dendroaspis. Now have a look. Anger sudden, paroxysmal. Dendroaspis is present as a 1-mark remedy. Anger violent, again present as a 1-mark remedy. Contradiction ailments from aggravates. Dendroaspis is present. There are a lot of vivid dreams in Dendroaspis and most of them are violent. So crocodiles, killing, lions, murder, being pursued by. Okay, so again a lot of persecution complex that is there in Dendroaspis, and this is a very interesting rubric. Wants to fight. So they are very offensive in their attack. They will be the person to start a fight. Okay, and they are very direct about it. They do not do it in a nice way like elapse, or they do not do it in a timed way like crotalis or naja or lachesis. For them, they are not bothered about the environment, they are not bothered about what is there, they just want to get their point across, and that is why they are the people who usually start a fight. Okay, so very interesting. We saw different varieties of snakes and their different characteristics. So the next time you have somebody who is walking in who matches a snake remedy, don't just think of lachesis, think of the evolution of this person into a snake remedy, and then try and differentiate between the different snake remedies that we have in our materia medica. All right. Now, let's move on to a case of a snake remedy. It's a case of malaria, and we'll see how the symptoms were taken, how the totality was extracted, and finally, how the remedy was given. So, this is the case of a 38-year-old weak looking lady who came to the clinic complaining of fever since 4 days. While working at home, the chills began around 7 or 8 pm and lasted for about an hour. Chills were felt on the back, so much so that she had to cover her whole body. Her temperature then shot up to 102 degrees Fahrenheit, for which she took paracetamol. The temperature then became normal, but she was feeling very weak and her sleep was disturbed as well. Her fever came back during sleep. The fever recurred again the next day and had a similar pattern. Along with this, she had a severe body ache and headache. Now, this is during fever. She also mentioned that there was throbbing pain in the head. She had excessive leukorrhea since 3 years. Backache with the leukorrhea. There was no staining or foul odor or itching. Physically, she had an intense craving for salt. Now, this started during her fever. Okay, so that is why it holds more importance. Appetite reduced, thirst was frequent. Okay, so she had a bottle of water and she was frequently sipping from it. No complaints in stool, urine profuse and frequent, but no pain. Perspiration cold, non-offensive. Sleep was disturbed due to fever. And dreams, she says she generally gets frightful dreams, but during the fever, she had dreams of snakes around her. Now, mental symptoms during the fever. When the patient walked into the clinic, she was extremely anxious. She said that she may die suddenly, just like her husband, who had died a few years previously accidentally. She saw his burnt remains in the kitchen. Okay, so he died of a cylinder explosion, and since then she has been extremely frightful of death. Currently, she lives with her daughter. Now, in the clinic, she was very restless. She was, even while talking, she was very restless. Even while sitting, she was extremely restless. She was very talkative. And she kept saying that, people are out to harm me. They want to harm me. When we tried to delve into this deeper, she just said, no, I feel that people want to harm me. And this feeling is there only since her fever started. And that is why she says that even while taking medicines, she thinks twice before taking a medicine from somebody. They are giving her a medicine and saying, please take your medicine. She gets a bit suspicious. Now, generally, when we examined, she had a pale look with a flushed face. Temperature was normal when she walked into the clinic. Pulse 70 beats per minute. Blood pressure normal at 110 by 75. And even the respiratory rate was normal at 16. Systemic examination revealed nothing abnormal in the respiratory system, cardiovascular system, or nervous system. Lips and tongue were dry, and there was a slight pain in the right hypochondrium while palpating, but there was no swelling. Okay. Investigation: the peripheral blood smear was positive for malarial parasite. Rest all parameters were within normal limits. Okay, so the diagnosis is malaria or malarial fever. It's a dynamic chronic miasmatic disease with fully developed symptoms. Now, she had fever since 4 days, but we talk about malaria as being a chronic type of fever because this is what Hahnemann has mentioned, that intermittent fever is a chronic fever. Okay, because the clinical picture of malaria is such that it lasts, even if the fever goes, the pathology is still going on inside the body and it takes time for the pathology to resolve. So that is why malaria or intermittent fever is classified as a chronic disease. How do we approach such a case? However, we will only look at the picture that the patient has come to us with since the past 4 days, because that is what is predominating and that is what is troubling her. Okay, so Hahnemann talks about intermittent fevers in aphorisms 235 to 245 of Organon of Medicine, 6th edition. He mentions that during such cases, one must form a totality after carefully examining and including the characteristic symptoms of chill, heat, and sweat. We must also consider the change in the mental state as well as the physical generals. And once this fever subsides, we follow the indicated remedy with the appropriate antisoric remedy to complete the cure. This is very, very essential, especially when it comes to intermittent fevers. Again, since they are of the chronic variety. So now here is the totality that we took, because we have to consider the change in the mental state, the physical generals, as well as the characteristics of fever. So we have taken all these three: anxiety about health, fear of death, restlessness, suspiciousness, loquacity, dreams of snakes. Now, suspiciousness is not something that the patient herself said, but a lot of the symptoms that we take rely on our observations. So, the restlessness, the suspiciousness, the loquacity is what we have seen, whereas the anxiety about the health, the fear of death, and the dreams of snakes are something that the patient herself has said. We also then take up craving for salty food, which is directly translated into food and drinks, salt or salty food desires from generalities, frequent thirst for small quantities of water. This is translated or converted from the stomach chapter as thirst, small quantities for frequent, often. And now the last three symptoms or that we have taken will be converted into rubrics that we have taken from the fever repertory by Allen. Okay, so this or these symptoms rather will help us to get the final remedy. Now, fever during sleep, we have taken from the chapter fever heat, symptoms during sleep. Okay, all of this have been taken from the fever repertory by Allen. Chill felt in the back is taken from the fever chill chapter as location of back, in or on the. And finally, headache during fever is taken as fever heat, symptoms during headache. Okay, so now let us repertorize all of these rubrics and see the remedies that come up. Now the first is anxiety about health. Okay, now an anxiety about health, the first 6 or 7 rubrics that we see are being taken from the mind chapter, and that is why we will go directly into the mind chapter of the complete repertory and record the rubrics. To do that, you do a command O from the keyboard, but right now the chapter is already open, so we will directly start typing. anxiety space health. All right. Now we have directly come to that rubric of anxiety health about. I can record the rubric right from here, or I can jump to the rubric first and then after that I can record it. All right. So anxiety health about. To record this rubric, just check the box that is present against the rubric. The next rubric we need to record is a fear of death. Again, start typing fear, death. So fear, death of with 278 remedies. Let us directly record it from here. It's done. The third is restlessness. Again, start typing restlessness, and we see the first rubric as restlessness, nervousness. Okay, click on it and you directly jump to that rubric. We can record it from here. The next rubric is suspicious. Okay, now start typing suspicious. Okay, we have directly come to this rubric called suspiciousness, mistrustfulness, and we will record it from here. The final rubric we will record using the classic feature is locacity. So let me start typing. All right, so LOQUA, locacity. We have directly come to this rubric and now I will record it. Okay, so in this way I have recorded 5 rubrics. Now let me record the next 2 rubrics using the quick symptom record feature. Now the quick symptom record feature is a feature in which you can search for a symptom and you will see one or more than one result in the form of rubrics for those symptoms that you are looking for. Now we are looking for specifically dreams of snakes. Okay, so for accessing the quick symptom record, just type command K. All right. On the left hand side, you see a list of symptoms. All you have to do is start typing. So, dream. All right. Now, under dream, I will see in the sleep chapter about the different types of dreams that are there. Okay, you can see an entire list of the different types of dreams. I am specifically looking for snakes. So I will click on snakes and now I can see how many rubrics are there. Okay, let me record the first one, that is dreams snakes from Kent repertory. Okay, the next rubric I am looking for is a desire for salt. So now I type in desire, or rather let me just type in salt. Okay, all right, so now I see that when I type in salt, I get a lot of references, aggravation from, aversion to, and desire for. So now I will select salt or salted food, and the first reference that I get from the generalities chapter of complete repertory is salty food desires. I just check the box against it and it is recorded. All right. Now the next rubrics that I want to record are thirst and the rubrics of fever. So to do that, I will do a command S. I will do a general search for thirst among all the repertories that I have. So to do a general search, I just press command S from my keyboard and I type the keywords that I want. So I type in thirst, small, frequent. All right. So now I have 22 references for thirst, small and frequent, and I am looking for the first reference to record, which is thirst, small quantities for, frequent often. I check the box and it is recorded. Now for the next three symptoms which I want to record from the fever repertory by Allen. I can run a general search and then select fever and record the symptoms from that repertory. So let me do that. A command S, and I am first looking for fever during sleep. So I type fever and sleep. Press enter. I get 740 references for this, but I am only looking for that one reference from the fever repertory. So I click on fever. I see that there are 117 references for fever and sleep. But if you look at the second rubric in this list, it is what we are looking for. Fever, fever heat symptoms during sleep with 24 remedies. So I check the box against it and it is recorded. The next rubric I want to record is chill in the back. Again a command S and I type chill space back. Press enter and again I go in only for the references of the fever repertory. And in the fever repertory there are 52 references and the first reference is what I want. Fever chill, location of back, in or on the, with 58 remedies. So I record that rubric. And the final rubric that I want to record is a headache that comes on during fever or the heat stage. Again a command S and I type headache space fever. So if you see, I don't have to type the entire rubric that I want. I can type headache during fever, I can type headache and fever, fever and headache. I will get the same results. Okay. So headache and fever I type, I press enter. Again looking only for the references in the fever repertory, I see that the first reference is what I'm looking for. Fever heat symptoms during headache. I check the box and now the rubrics have been recorded. Okay, now the next rubric that I would like to record is dreams of snakes. So I just start typing dreams space snakes and I have 97 remedies in the first reference that I get. I check the box and it is recorded. So now when we look at the final repertorization sheet, okay, what you see is if I click on symptoms covered, I can see that lachesis is the only remedy to cover all of the rubrics that we have recorded. Natrum mur covers 9 out of 11, followed by sulfur and lycopodium. But lachesis is the only remedy that covers everything. And that, friends, shows us the importance of using different repertories. A repertory like fever, which is a lost treasure of Allen. We need to use such repertories so that they help us. They help the actual remedy shine through. Because all of these rubrics and symptoms that you see in the fever repertory are clinically verified rubrics that contain clinically verified remedies. And that is why they help you, or they help us rather, to give the accurate remedy in a very short span of time. So now we know that lachesis is the remedy for our patient. Let us have a look at the prescription that has been given. So the indicated remedy is lachesis and we have given it to her in the 1 potency because all of her symptoms were very marked. 1 dose stat, just a single dose. Patient was asked to report if the fever returned. The patient called the next day to inform that the fever had returned at night, but the symptoms were less intense. So she was asked again to repeat a dose of lachesis 1 and after that there was no recurrence. But we need to understand that relief does not end here. If a cure needs to be achieved, Like Hahnemann mentioned in the Organon of Medicine, you have to give a suitable antisoric remedy. So, a week after the fever subsided, the patient was given a dose of sulfur 1 mg to complete the cure. So, what do we learn from this presentation that we had? We learnt about the evolution of the Ophidia group and how we can connect the symptoms of poisoning with the sphere of action and the physiological action of the remedies of the Ophidia group. We learned about how effectively we can connect the nature and life of a snake with the symptoms that we see in the human constitution that requires a snake remedy. And finally, we learned how to differentiate the evolution of the snakes in a very fine manner so that we go beyond lachesis when it comes to prescribing remedies from the Ophidia group. So thank you very much, everyone. I have really enjoyed this session. I hope that you have a lot of takeaway from this session as well. Thank you and take care.